Greetings, my dear viewers. It is I, Dracon. Welcome back to another Dungeons & Dragons video. Today we are looking at Fizban's Treasury of Dragons and the top 10 creatures and features that can be found within this book. If you're new to this channel, hello, I am Dracon, your lovely host. And I cover all things gaming, technically. Mostly Dungeons and Dragons, but I do have a few videos over with Pathfinder, and I've also got a video covering Pokemon. So, welcome. Like I said, we're going to be going over Fizban's Treasury of Dragons and a top 10 things found in Fizban's. And for starters, I really love this book, so I'm going to have a couple of bias entries in here. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get on with the list. Now, there is no real order, but some people might think there might be, because my little biased opinion. Anyway, rambling, let's get into it. Starting things off at number 1, if I did make a list in order from greatest to not as great, I would definitely have these creatures at number 1 for the best. The Draconians. Metallic, chromatic, and gem Draconians. Draconians are one of the first monsters that I was introduced to when I took part in Dungeons and Dragons. And these guys are nuts. Just, things I could say about them. But let's just go ahead and start with the facts. The Draconians were born from dragon eggs warped by powerful magic. To be more precise, the first Draconians were made by Tiamat, who used her dark powers to twist Bahamut's precious metallic dragons to become her servants. So if you have a campaign such as Horde of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat, you're going to want these guys in your campaign. If Tiamat's involved, these guys need to be involved as well. Now, those are just the metallics. Why are there chromatics and gems? Well, I cannot answer the origin of the gem dragon, but I can answer chromatic. A wizard that followed Tiamat wanted to replicate the process and create more soldiers. So he used this process on chromatic dragon eggs. Unfortunately, he did not foresee that there was a form of balance in the universe. The metallic dragons became evil. But, due to the process on chromatic dragons, the resulting noble Draconians were goodly aligned. Now, not to say that they followed Bahamut, but they are goodly aligned, nonetheless. Like I said, I can't figure out why gem dragon eggs got turned into Draconians, or what they would follow, though I would assume it's kind of even between the metallics and the nobles. One of the best features about the Draconians is their ability to change their form, sort of like doppelgangers. But unlike doppelgangers, the Draconians must kill the original person to take on their form. So if you find out that your precious shopkeeper is a Draconian, well, the original shopkeeper's been dead for a while. And they also have the ability to explode upon death, just for one last bite, if you will. But these guys are just great for, well, really any draconic campaign, but more specifically for a campaign involving Tiamat. And that's why if I had a linear list, these guys would most definitely be my #1 pick for greatest feature in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. But this is just the first one on the list to mention. Alright, moving on to #2. I want you to go ahead and take a look at this picture for the chromatic great worm. You see how large it is next to this city? Just 1 foot can crush the entirety of that bridge. The dragon itself could make this city its nest. So it begs the question why the stat block doesn't have Siege Monster as one of the abilities. Well, not to fear, because Fizban has given us a sort of remedy to that, with dragon customizations. That's right, you two can have a slightly different dragon from all the other dungeon masters, just by giving it these customizations, because much like humans, dragons are unique from each other, even if they are of the same color or metal. What you can do with what Fizban gives you is give the dragon features from other monsters. So, for example, the Siege Monster property. You can also give them spellcasting, give them amazing characteristics, much like a player character. Personality, ideals, bonds, flaws, even mannerisms are listed in here. Make them unique by changing their appearance. Give them rounded horns like a ram, or make their horns actually float, kind of like a gym dragon's, or maybe like this great worm, for example, they're on fire, so they would, that's 2 for 1 there. You got the fire, which is a appearance characteristic, and then you add the monster feature, I think similar to that of a fire elemental, where it deals damage to creatures within its radius. Another unique feature that it suggests is adding some flair to their death by giving them a death throw, much like that of the Draconians. Make it use its breath weapon one final time, maybe roll on the wild magic surge table, something exquisite, memorable even. Fizban encourages you to make your dragon boss battles unique. Even more so with our next entry. Minion features. Now, minion features aren't an entirely new thing. They were introduced to us in Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft earlier this year. I think during when was it? It was March, I believe. Anyway, it was earlier this year, and it introduced to us minion features. And much of these features have been reprinted in Von Richten's Guide. So it gives us a reminder of those traits and how you can customize your minions. For example, having a kobold die, and it gives life back to the boss, giving it some more HP and letting it last longer. Additionally, it has a new minion feature, the explosive minion. Much like the Draconian's death throw, a dead minion will explode upon death, dealing damage of the dragon's breath weapon type. So that's pretty cool. Have a bunch of weak little minions, and then all of a sudden, when the dragon breathes its breath weapon and some of those minions get caught in the crossfire and die, there's some extra damage from those minions coming right at you. So yeah, that actually makes a boss fight a little more challenging. Alright, I don't think I can skip out on this creature, the Elder Brain Dragon. Now, disappointingly, it's only a CR 22. I thought it would be a little bit higher. But I have talked about this thing over on Twitter, where I orchestrated a encounter proposal for it. Sort of an epic boss fight. And this mostly centers around its brine breath, which does 55 psychic damage normally. But the targets of this breath also must make an additional saving throw or become infected with tadpoles, the Mind Flayer tadpoles, which I'm sure everyone's aware of by now by reading up or hearing about the lore of Mind Flayers. And these tadpoles will start dealing some extra damage to you on each of your turns, and if a creature drops to 0 HP, they don't die. They become stable, but they are still infected with these tadpoles, which in, I think it was 6d12 hours, these victims will turn into new Mind Flayers, which is amazing. So you can have your Elder Brain Dragon with a colony of Mind Flayers attack the surface world and start off with, let's say, a village. They turn the populace into Mind Flayers in, we'll say, about a month's time, and they move on to, we'll say, a small city. And they just keep going and going until they have taken over an entire continent. My goodness. This thing isn't deserving of a CR 22 rating. Now, the only thing is that the brine breath isn't affected by siege monster, because objects and structures aren't affected by psychic damage. In fact, they're immune to it. But that still goes without saying that the brine breath is the Elder Brain Dragon's most powerful weapon. Another upsetting thing about it is that it doesn't have everything that an Elder Brain has. It's missing a few of the Elder Brain features, which, thanks to my earlier entry on Dragon customization, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Just give it the features that the Elder Brain had. And that might actually raise the CR rating to maybe a 25, if not greater. Now, we can't exactly talk about dragons without addressing Bahamut, the Platinum Dragon, king of the metallic dragons. This is the first stat block we have ever gotten from Bahamut, the aspect of Bahamut. Now, Bahamut in of itself is a great character. Even his human disguises, such as Fizban, yes, that's right, spoiler alert for that, but Fizban is in fact Bahamut in disguise. But like I said, Bahamut is a very, very good character to have in any dragon-related campaign. Honestly, I don't know why he wasn't even mentioned in Horde of the Dragon Queen or Rise of Tiamat, because that would have been something nice to have mentioned, I feel. And just by this stat block, we actually have a great boss fight that we can do for when things get a little dicey around Bahamut. Well, maybe if your characters are lucky, they didn't try to kill Bahamut. But if they ended up trying, you have Bahamut stat block, which is already a CR 30. And you also got the 7 ancient gold dragons that are always accompanying him. Yeah, your characters don't have a chance. That's a TPK if they mess with Bahamut in the wrong way. But as an ally, Bahamut is perfect, and is actually the only correct way to use the dreaded DMPC. Because he's already pretty strong, but he doesn't want to give himself away. He'll just pretend he's weaker. But holy cow, his stat block is perfect. I love it. I just love Bahamut. That exaltation breath, or just an exalted breath, it heals anyone he chooses. And if somebody happened to die early, they're not dead anymore. They have their full health back. Deus Ex Machina, anyone? Of course, that might end up giving things away once that happens. But you've got to admit, Bahamut is pretty good. I wish we had another stat block for Bahamut, much like we could do for Tiamat. And honestly, if they did do it, I would recommend they have Bahamut's main stat block be that of a Celestial to counter Tiamat's Fiend stat block. Alright, number 6 is going to be the new subclass, the Drake Warden. I love this subclass. If I ever get the chance to play in a game, I am using this subclass. And I'm not going to multi-class. Because the Drake Warden needs you to have 15 levels at a minimum in order for you to get the full experience of this subclass. And that is because it lets you ride your Drake companion at this level. And holy cow, that is awesome. You can talk trash all you want about the Ranger. Just not to me. Because this subclass is awesome. The Drake Warden is the Ranger equivalent to the Hexblade Warlock. You cannot change my mind on this. And I will definitely be playing a Githyanki Drake Warden the next chance I get. Number 7 is going to be improvements on Dragon Hordes. And I'm not just talking about the Horde Mimic or the Coin Scarabs, even though those are pretty darn good, and it actually helps us with making our hordes look bigger than they are. Because let's face it, the hordes still aren't big enough, even though they did give us a slight increase on the Dragon's Treasure Hoard. And when I get to making another top 10 list, even though it's probably going to be a top 5 worst features, or nitpick video, I will talk about why the Dragon Horde seem a little bit small to me. But that's not the only thing that got improved with these hordes. There are haunted hordes, there are dragon curses, even some of the new magic items that can be found in Dragon Hordes are pretty good. And that is why it's on this list, is because I loved the improvements that were made to Dragon Hordes. But there still could have been some extra improvement that could have been put into them. Alright, number 8 is actually a tie between the Dragon Bone Golem and the Dragon Blood Ooze. And that is because they actually work well as a pair of creatures rather than separate entities. While separate entities are still pretty good, I would recommend having them together for an encounter, because it can foreshadow one of the other creatures in Fizban's, the Hollow Dragon, which is just the empty hide of the metallic dragon that it once was. So, a metallic dragon could have gone through the process of making a dragon blood ooze, then became a hollow dragon, and then went through another process of reanimating its bones to make the Dragon Bone Golem. And have both the Dragon Bone Golem and the Dragon Blood Ooze work as some sort of bodyguards for its lair. And that is an epic encounter right there. Just having these, technically 3 creatures team up, but the Dragon Bone and the Dragon Blood are honestly more memorable because you do not expect blood to attack you, or a pile of dragon bones to just rise up and then start turning you to stone. Yeah, the Dragon Bone Golem has a petrification breath. That's nuts. And that's why they're number 8 on this list, is because they are still pretty good creatures. Even though, admittedly, they're not complete without the Hollow Dragon as part of the encounter. Okay. I'm going to admit these are not my favorite entries. The Gem Dragon and the Gem Dragonborn are... I don't like talking about them that much. I mean, yes, they're pretty good. But I wasn't too thrilled, especially with their design. Yes, it's a new type of breath weapon available to us for dragons and Dragonborn. And the psionics are pretty good. However, some of the dragons are a little weird. I mean, most of them kind of look like they got taken out of Dragon Tales. They just look childish. At least the art for them, for a generic gem dragon, is kind of childish. Don't get me wrong, they're pretty good. And in all honesty, I prefer the Topaz Dragon. Mostly for the necrotic breath, but also it just looks better than the others. And I kind of like the wing design of the Topaz. It's hilarious. But Gem Dragons and Gem Dragonborn are not my favorite of the dragons. In all honesty, I would have preferred more chromatics and more metallics, the Pharaoh's dragons and the rest of the chromatics. I would have preferred seeing more of them to the Gem Dragons. But that's just my opinion. I still have them on this list because they are still dragons. They're still a part of Fizban's, and honestly, they are still pretty good. Okay, I'm cheating a little bit on this last one, but Fizban's Treasury of Dragons as a whole is my number 10 spot. Yes, it has some bad parts, but as a whole, it's a good book. Honestly, I would recommend any dungeon master picking this up. No, I'm not sponsored by Wizards of the Coast. No one has ever contacted me for a sponsorship, and I don't think they ever will. And honestly, if they did, I would more than likely turn them down. But anyway, Fizban's as a whole is still a pretty good book. I mean, you got 33 different creatures, 7 new spells, 16 magic items in total. That includes the Horde magic items. And you also get some dragon-themed plot hooks. What more can you ask for? Yes, you also get the 2 new subclasses, but this is mostly for the Dungeon Master's use. And it is glorious. And I'm being a little bit biased because I am a dragon fan, in case my name didn't give that away. But this is a great book. I would like to see more books like this in the future. It doesn't have to be just about dragons. It could be about another type of creature that is more prominent. Like, honestly, I would like something on the Gith or the Mind Flayers, which I believe we are about to get a multiverse hopping book in the future because the new Unearthed Arcana. But I could be wrong. But I really like this book, and honestly, I think you would like it too, if you haven't gotten it already. And those are just my thoughts. What are your thoughts about Fizban's Treasury of Dragons? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you're a part of my other series' Character Conversion or Character Concept, or maybe you're a part of the Canon Analyzed videos, go ahead and comment down below on things that you might want me to go over in future videos. Until next time, this has been Drahan, and I am offline.